evening, everyone. Had to catch y'all on the downbeat. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to WealthyU Wind Down Wednesday. Good evening. Come on in here so I can give some shout outs to all of you. I'm excited because it's Financial Freedom Fighters Night. You know, it's Black History Month, and I wanted to give kudos to our historical figures who basically have made it possible for us to be doing many of the things that we're doing today. And so come on in, we're going to talk a little bit about that. We're also going to be sharing some other news. I want to make sure you guys are watching Get Wealthy, because this week there is a financial freedom fighter that I'm interviewing about her book, and lots of good stuff. So let me see who's in the room with me tonight so that I can give you some shout outs. Just let me know in the chat where you're from, so I can give you a shout out if it's your first time being here. I also want to give you a shout out. I see there many of our members here. We're also streaming on Facebook, on YouTube. And so we want to make sure that we recognize all of you who are on our other platforms, but get on in here in the Zoom room so you can get into what we are up to. Good evening. So who do I need in the chat? Let me know where you're from so I can give you a shout out. Excellent. Nellie from Hyde Park, Massachusetts. All right. Well, welcome. Who else is in the room? Excellent. Stephanie from Ohio. Hey, Steph. And I want to thank Stephanie for sharing her story last week. If you didn't see WealthyU Wind Down last week, I want to make sure that you guys check it out. Hang on, it looks like I'm a little herky-jerky and I'm on the wrong network. So let me make sure that I take care of that so that we're not herky-jerky. So give me just a minute to make sure that we're streaming live. Okay, let's go to some other networks and make sure that we are doing what we are supposed to be doing. I tell you, yeah. So let's get on that. Awesome. So yes, that looks much better. Let me come back to the room. Invite you guys in. I want to make sure we've got text going out. There are just so many things you have to do with technology. But good evening. Hey, tell me something good. Tell me that you like it, girl. I'm trying to sing. You know I love me some chocolate, but I definitely don't have a chocolate. So in the chat, let me hear some, before we get started. I'd love to hear if anybody's got some good news. I want you to start thinking about your wins for this week, because I want to hear from you. I hear we've had some great things happening in WealthyU. We've got women who got debt being forgiven. It's nothing like being in the circle and really from day to day, just hearing about some of the miraculous things that are happening. So let's get into what we're into. Okay, so good evening, everybody. I'm Deborah Owens, founder and CEO of WealthyU, and I want to welcome you to WealthyU Wind Down Wednesday, where we relax. We talk about what's going on in certainly the financial world. I guess I need to weigh in on that because the market's been down. We were down 700 points the other day. It is Wednesday. We were down yesterday, but I'll talk a little bit about that, because what do we say in WealthyU? We never lose. In the chat, if you've been hanging with me, you know about it. Oh, Stephanie eliminated over $1,200 from my bills. Love it, love it, love it. Greetings, Chaka. Okay, Frida. All right, that's my girl, though. Funny story. I'm going a little off a topic just for a minute, but my husband, we're from Detroit, and so we were home visiting, and Chaka Khan was at what used to be Shane Park Pavilion, but now they've named it Aretha Franklin Park. And Chaka Khan was there. Now, we were a little freaked out because, my husband and I, we hadn't been like hanging out in crowds. You know what I mean? With COVID, you can't be out here in these COVID streets. Now I see people walking around, no mask, this and that. Well, I'll be like, y'all go ahead on. But long story short, so we're watching Chaka and she's lip syncing. My husband is so mad. She lip syncing. She not even singing. But here's all I want to say. Chaka was looking good. Chaka done dropped a lot of weight. Girl was looking good. And I don't care if she was lip syncing because I knew the words to every song. And I sang them too. And I know the people around me were like, oh, lady, get it together. Get it together. The little youngins, they be looking at you like, auntie, they love to throw that auntie out on you too. Now, I don't know if it's a dig or I don't know if they're giving me respect, but whatever, I receive it, right? So, okay, that's my Chaka story. So let me refocus. So good evening, everyone. Welcome to WealthyU Wind Down Wednesday. This is where we relax. We talk about wealth. We talk about what's going in the financial markets. And we also get to have an adult beverage so that I can toast all of you. Feel free to bring your favorite drink. It could be water, it could be whatever, but I'm going to have what I'm drinking tonight is another Cabernet. So let me just toast all of you. Okay. So. Let me see. Let me make sure I get all of you in here and give you your shout outs. Are there any more wins? Anita says someone called me auntie yesterday. Well, I'm going to be honest with you guys. The first time somebody did that, a young woman, and quite frankly, she wasn't all that young. I was like, hold up, boo. We almost contemporary, so I can't be your auntie, It was so funny. She looked at me. She was like, you know what, Deb, you, what can I say? But anyhow, so WealthyU Wind Down Wednesday. Tonight, I want to talk about Black History Month. Because, as I think about it, think about this just for a moment. My mother was the daughter of a sharecropper and from Pineapple, Alabama. Are y'all with me? Like Pineapple, Alabama. Literally, when we would go to the country, that's what we used to call it when we were little. You know how you get out of school, car shows up like the very next week. You got your little luggage with you, they made some chicken or whatever. And then you took that long drive down south. How many of you can relate to that? If you can relate to that, if you used to go down south in the summer, in the chat, tell me I can relate, right? So, and then it's a bunch of y'all cousins. We didn't have no seat belts. It wasn't none of that, right? You just got in the car, went down south. And we literally, because our parents worked, we literally would go down south and we would be there the whole summer. And so we'd go to my grandparents who lived on a farm, and that was the country. And I would be, Lord Jesus, can I go to the big city? And that was Camden, Alabama. That was the big city, right? And then if it really, really got good, then we got to go to Birmingham. And so, there were all these relatives, aunts, and you just show up and, you would have your little PJs and they would take care of you. And you may be at one house for a couple of days, one house for a couple of days, right? So, I mean, imagine my mother growing up on a farm picking cotton. And then marrying my father and doing what most Black folks did to find opportunity, and that was go up north, right? So they started in Chicago, but they ended up staying in Detroit. Well, actually, prior to that, my father was in the Navy, and then they first stop was Washington, D.C., where my sister, Veronica, was born. And then the next stop was Honolulu, Hawaii. And I had a sister, Caressa, who was born there. And then they landed in Detroit, right? And so my dad worked, eventually got a job as a sky cap for the airlines, United Airlines. And my mother eventually start working in the factory for Chrysler, because that's what you did, and in that, the interesting thing about that was back then, I mean, you could literally have a middle-class lifestyle without having graduated high school. And my mother, I know, married my father when she only had like 6 months before she could graduate from high school. And my father promised my aunt at the time, who my mother was living with, that he would make sure that happened, but it didn't. So anyhow, imagine them raising 5 kids, and myself, my mother, I was the youngest, and my mother really tried to do everything to afford me the kind of opportunity that I'm sure she dreamed about when she was on that farm, and back-breaking work in picking cotton. And the fact that my husband and I eventually, I moved to Hawaii, my parents moved to Hawaii, and then I moved back to Detroit, and then met my husband, and then we had my son, and then I went into the investment industry, and then we moved to California, and then I managed the West Coast, and then my husband got an opportunity here in Baltimore on television, and every night my children would turn on the TV and they would see their father on TV, reporting the news or actually anchoring the news, and they would grow up. And then they went on and they both graduated from University of Maryland, and now they're on and they're living, I'm so grateful, right? I'm so grateful that they are able to have the life that they have right now, but it is all a result of, right, that woman, that sharecropper's daughter. I never lose sight of that. I never lose sight of the fact that, and how many of you can relate to that we stand on the shoulders, what our parents had to go through in order for us to be on the other side of this and have the kind of opportunities that we've had, achieve some of the financial success that we have. And yet, what I want you guys to all understand is that even on the backs of all of that, there still is this huge, huge gap in terms of wealth, right? Like, we got political power, but what has been most elusive is that wealth and that freedom. How many of you agree or disagree with me on that? Like we have made gains, but economically we're still behind. And actually, in the last decade, it's gotten worse. The last 20 years has gotten worse, right? And that is a function of the fact that so much of what we thought was financial success really did not equate to that. It really wasn't designed to give us financial independence. How many of you can agree or disagree with me? That in spite of the political gains that we've made, that economically we still have a ways to go. Agree with me on that? Yeah, so the reason I wanted to talk about that, yes, we have lost ground, but here's what I want you guys to understand. You know, I'm writing a new book, excited about it because we are in the last editing stages. And in fact, my husband made me so excited because, you know, my husband's a journalist. And so the manuscript, the initial draft of the manuscript was done. And I was like, oh, would you read this? Would you read this? And so a couple of weeks had gone by and I was wondering, I was like, wow, is he going to read this? But in his defense, he does have a lot going on. Okay, so I just got to give a brother just a little bit of grace, right? Just a little bit of grace, okay? So anyhow, the other day he was running errands. Thank you. I can't wait for you guys to read it because I'm just so excited. I feel like this is the book that I was put here to write. And you guys, I'll tell you a little bit about that later. So anyway, my husband has this app on the phone, and he's been using this app that I wasn't aware of. And it was where you can take your iPhone accessibility and did you know you can go text to talk and it'll read whatever's on your phone? Did you guys know that? In the chat? If you got this AI is just, honey, let me tell you, it's next level, right? So anyhow, he's listening to the book and he came and he was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. And I was like, really? Is it good? He was like, yeah, it just gets better and better. I was like, really? Is it good? And so my PR person, Zena, you guys may have seen Zena. I've interviewed her. And I've known Zena for years. And in fact, I interviewed her on Get Wealthy, and she's actually in the book. So when the manuscript was done, I sent it to her. And I'm like, Zena, how's it going? She was like, oh, this book is good. I was like, well, where are you? She's like, oh, well, I'm using it as my workbook. I got to do all the exercise. I'm like, no, read the book, so you can give me some feedback, right? So the fact of the matter is I'm really, really excited about the book. Of course, those of you, membership has privileges, right? So those of you, we're going to do a book launch. We're still a few months out before we will do pre-sales, but I am excited about this book. So let me get back to my point, right? So the point is that one of the points that I make in the book is really that everything that we've been taught about achieving financial success was never designed for us to achieve financial success. I want you guys to get this, right? Because what is clear is that we were taught to be earners, not owners. I want you guys to get the significance of this. So we literally went from working in the fields, right, as sharecroppers, never owning the land, to now we're in roles and we were taught to, get this education, get these careers, go in, get a six-figure income and but still it's precarious, right? Because we still don't own, you can't own a job. You know what I mean? Like, you can't own a job. I mean, the reason that we were sold this idea was like 30 years ago, you really could work for a company and retire with a pension, right? And that pension would be significant. And even now, in WealthyU, we see the difference between people who have had long careers with organizations and still have a pension. Many of them sold those pensions, though. Some of you took. How many of you, let me just ask the question. How many of you have a pension? If you have a pension, in the chat, or if you're on Facebook or you're on YouTube, if you have a pension, just put pension in the chat. Okay, so Elthery Meyer says, I do. Who else has a pension? Aretha Phillips, pension. Karen, pension. Diane Dush, pension. Okay, so some of you have pensions, right? Some of us have Social Security, right? Most of us will qualify for Social Security, but how many of you will actually, if Social Security was your only check, that you would be able to live off your Social Security check? If you could live off of your Social Security check. Oh, some of you have pension and Social Security. Yeah. Sharon says, no, I can't. Can you live off of your Social Security? So the reason that I'm saying this is that we were told that that's what we could do, that we could work, we would get Social Security, we would have this pension, and that we would be financially independent, when in fact, once we pass away, what happens? All of that income stops. It doesn't go to anybody, right? So we're not creating generational wealth that we can pass on because we've been earners. Whereas the difference between being an earner and an owner, and no, I am not saying that everybody should start a business. And, I'm an entrepreneur, honey, and business is hard right now. That's all I want to tell you. There are many times I've been thinking, ooh, wow, it might be great to just go work for somebody else. But the point that I'm making is what we never learned was how to turn our income into assets, right? That create an income, because that's what happens when you take your income and you invest it in stocks that pay dividends, when you invest it in real estate, when you invest it in bonds, when you invest it in other assets, that those assets then can generate the income and replace you having to work for an income, right? So the point I want to make really is true financial freedom. I just want to define it. True financial freedom is when your money works and you no longer have to. Agree or disagree with me, y'all? Agree or disagree with me? So the reason why I wanted to have this conversation during Black History Month is I think we're at like a tipping point. And what I want you all to have is a sense of urgency around your ability to shift from being an earner to an owner. Shift from that income mindset to that wealth mindset. Because what we were taught was that if we looked a certain way, we were taught to wear our wealth. And I'll never forget, I was interviewing, and you'll hear her story, and it's in the book as well, Dr. Sharon Deans. And, a medical doctor, very successful, and yet still felt like she was living from paycheck to paycheck. How many of you feel like that? Feel like you're still living from paycheck to paycheck, right? And that, if you were to lose whatever your income source is right now, it could be significantly economically devastating. And so what I want you to know really is so much of what we have to do is understand how to become owners by investing our dollars and making more risk and not being so focused on earning income. Now, I'm not going to say that's not important. I don't want you to think it's not important. Yes, if you earn more income, you do have more discretionary, right, money than to invest. But what happens is that as our incomes rise, guess what we do? We just spend 5% more than what we're making. Can you guys relate to that? So when you focus on just earning more income and not turning that income into wealth, you're never free. If you guys can relate to that in the chat, tell me you can relate to that. Say yes. So here's what I want you all to know. What you're going to see us in WealthyU is us really double down on the significance of you shifting from an earner mindset to an owner mindset. And that you learn how to turn your income into wealth. Because here's what's happening in our community. Now, can I be clear? Far too many of us are more concerned with not losing our money than making our money grow. So we're so busy trying not to lose, but what we don't understand is we can't win that way. If you understand that, here's what you need to understand. The reason that the wealth gap is so wide in our community is because only 35% of our households even own stock. You guys get this? Like most of our investments, I don't even want to say investments, most of our savings are in insurance. A great deal of them are in annuities. And the fact is, if you look at the performance of those asset classes, they have not grown to the degree that other assets have, whether it be stocks, whether it be, stocks have outperformed every other type of investment. And what I find really interesting is that when you juxtapose the African American economy against those two things, against consuming, we are buying all of these brands. We over-index in every kind of product you can imagine in terms of iconic brands. We buy it, but we don't invest in it. I want you guys to get this. Here's the truth, is that all of you listening to me are already wired to do well in investing because you are sophisticated consumers. And let me tell you, the brands know that. They know that. And that's why they market to you. And that's why they market to us. And we equate something being more expensive is more valuable. Agree or disagree with me, you guys, right? So that's why you see so many of us with brands with luxury brands. Whether it, I was out in the mall today and I was looking at all of the young people, and they had on, the Chanel, the MCM, all of the high-end goods. And yet, I bet you dollars to donuts, they don't almost share stock. Agree or disagree with me? Okay. So the point I want to make is that even though we've come far, and even though I know that for all of my mother's dreams for me, that what we've been able to accomplish is beyond her wildest dreams, right? I mean, for this young girl coming up in Detroit whose mother didn't graduate from high school, right? First in my family, college degree, first in my family to get a graduate degree. But that's not enough, y'all, right? That's what I want you to know. That's not enough. That's not enough. That was the success roadmap we were sold. So what I am more interested in, and I want to get back to the book for a minute. In the book, literally, I'm sharing the 7 wealth secrets that I discovered from working in the investment industry. And if you guys were in our last challenge, you got a little bit taste of it, right? And in fact, let me just put a bug in your ear. Our next challenge starts March 20th. And it's the 5-day Get Wealthy Challenge. And that's the whole point of it, to get you to shift from an earner mindset to an owner mindset, right? That's the point of it. So I want you guys to know that on March 20th, hang on, let me turn that off. The 5-day Get Wealthy Challenge, millionaires are made in recession. You can go to that website now. Guys, if you could put that link in the chat, and you can get on the wait list. And I want you to invite all your friends, because you're going to see us doubling down on the fact that we have to shift from being earners to owners. And we have to begin to apply the same strategies that the 1% have applied to become those 1%ers. And it all begins with us being more intentional and shifting from being earners to being owners. So that's number one. Okay. Number two is many of you have applied to WealthyU programs. And many of you have applied and qualified to go into our different programs, whether you're running for your first 6, your first 7. So one of the other things I want you to be on the lookout for is that we are going to be giving I want you to think of them as sneak peeks. Like, how many of you in the chat or on Facebook are not actually member? If you're not actually a member of WealthyU, let me know that. If you're not a member. If you're not a member of in any of our programs, let me know in the chat. Say, I'm not a member yet. Because one of the things we're going to be doing is inviting those of you who apply. And by the way, so Darlene Kane is not a member yet, okay, to apply. And let's put the link to apply. That's right. Thank you, Virginia, to our programs. I want you to apply, because one of within the next couple of weeks, if depending upon if you qualify for our programs, you're going to be invited to actually C, get an inside look. Who wants to get an inside look of what goes on in WealthyU and what creates all these amazing transformations where you see women doubling their retirement plans, their assets, building investment portfolios for the first time? Yes. Okay. So you're going to get a sneak peek into that, because one of the other, what do I want to say, goals that I have for WealthyU is we double our membership this year. But not only that we double our membership, but that we double our impact. Right. So I want to see more of our members hitting their first 6 and their first 7 figures. And the goal is to really accelerate that, those results. And so what you're going to see us is being very, very intentional about how we identify what your unique opportunities are and invite you to come in. And here's why this is important. I want you guys to know why this is important. This is important because what we're seeing economically in our community is the wealth gap is widening, right? It's not getting smaller, it's widening. In fact, here's a stat that I saw that blew my mind, is that the median wealth for Black women will be 0 by 2024. So here, is that crazy? It's $200 now. Is that nuts? But, 0. But here's what I got to say, not on my watch. And so getting back to financial freedom fighters, I was looking historically at people who I would call our financial freedom fighters, right? So who was the first Black woman millionaire? In the chat, let me know if you know. Do you know who that is? Who was the first Black woman millionaire? Yes, you are a member, Miss Minor, Madame C.J. Walker. Yeah, but you know what? There was another woman who made a greater impact. And her last name was Walker too. Does anybody know who that is? She started the first Black bank. Maggie Walker. Did you guys know that? And so what I want you guys to understand about, when I think of financial freedom fighters, it's not just people, you hear all these people, oh, I'm a millionaire, I'm this, I'm that, I'm this, I'm that. Well, no, I mean, how many other millionaires have you duplicated, right? How many people have you impacted? So when I think of financial freedom fighters, that's who I think of, right? Like the people who have impacted other people to a significant degree. So I got another question for you. Who was the first Black female billionaire? Anybody know? In the chat. Billionaire with a B. Who was? That's right, Oprah. Now, one of the things I will say, though, is Oprah has impacted a lot of people. Would you guys agree? Agree or disagree with me? She has made a lot of careers. Some of them I don't care to mention because they turn out to be real kooks, but we won't hold that against her. She got a lot of grace in my book. I ain't gonna name no names, but anywho. But who I think in terms of media has made the biggest impact and certainly impacted my life as well? Who do you think it is? And I consider her to be a financial freedom fighter. And she is responsible for so many careers. Anybody want to guess who that is? In media. Come on now, y'all. Y'all don't know who this is? She's got her start. That's right, Lynette, Kathy Hughes. She gave me my first start in radio. Who else? We can go down the line. Roland Martin, anybody you see on TV right now probably's been impacted by Kathy Hughes. You know, whether it was from her radio station, WOL, I had a little show on that. Then News One Now, you know, I had my little segment on Roland's show on News One Now. So yeah, Kathy Hughes has impacted a lot of lives. But here, who do you think? Okay, that's right. Robert Johnson's wife is a billionaire. Do you guys know who that is? Sheila Johnson. She's got the property in Salamander. And if you guys haven't went to that resort, nice. She's got one down in Florida, golf, and then just opened one in Jamaica, I think, in the Caribbean, right? So huge. Oh yeah, and she just bought the one in DC. Thank you for that. That's right. So she owns the the one in Middleburg, and what is that hotel? I know it's red. It was like an Asian, I can't think of the name of it, but she just purchased that, right? So who else? So we Kathy Hughes, Maggie Walker. Yes, Roxanne brought up the Mandarin. That's right. That's what she just purchased. So I can't wait. Oh, Sarah Rector, the first Black female millionaire at the age of 11. I stand corrected, right? Those oil wells. That's all. And so why is this important? Why is this important for us to have these conversations? Well, it's important for us to have these conversations so that we can be inspired and aspire. Agree or disagree with me, right? And I believe, though, that I don't want to take away, it's not that political power isn't important. I think now more than ever we see, you know, with the elections and all of the things that have happened before our eyes in this past decade, around our political games becoming in jeopardy, right? We understand the importance of political power. But what I would submit to all of you is that the next frontier that we must conquer is the economic frontier. That we must create a financial legacy and generational wealth for our families, so that not only will we have economic power because we'll have political power, because guess what you need to have political power? You have to have economic power to invest and get people elected. Agree or disagree with me? Okay, but here's the other important thing I want you guys to understand, is that it's not enough, get this, it is not enough for us to try to build money and millions of dollars, right, and acquire millions of dollars in assets and investments if we don't actually understand and teach our family how to build that wealth. And if we don't give them the most valuable assets of all, and that's the knowledge of how to build, protect, and preserve it, right? And so that's what I want all of you to understand, is that this is more than money. This fight for economic power and the ability to build wealth, the ability to accelerate your financial growth to 6 figures, to 7 figures and beyond, is more than money. It's not the money, it's the mission. And the mission, and I want to be clear with all of you, the mission is for you to acquire this knowledge so that you then have that knowledge and you can pay it forward to your family, because that knowledge is the greatest inheritance that you will be able to bestow upon your family. And then they'll be able to bestow it upon their family. You know, can I just be frank with you guys? In our culture, we don't have these conversations. We don't talk about investments. We don't talk about how to invest or how to grow it. And because we're not having these conversations in our family, and why do you think we aren't having these conversations? Why aren't we having these conversations? In the chat. Why aren't we having these conversations? Well, that's part of the reason I do WealthyU Wind Down, you know, and every time I say, oh, well, you know, WealthyU Wind Down, I don't know, it's just every week. Do we need to do it every week? And then I stop and I go to once a month, then I just hear, oh, everybody wonder what happened to WealthyU Wind Down. They're looking, why? Because we want to have these conversations, right? We want to be able to talk about this information and gain more insight and gain more knowledge. I mean, that's what WealthyU is about. Okay, so why don't we have these conversations? Some of us weren't taught this, so we don't know how to have the conversation. That's absolutely right. We don't know about the area of finances. That's right, Roxanne. We lack the knowledge, Lamerle says, because we don't have knowledge about it. Maddie says, because we think we don't have money to invest. Yes. Anita Vincent says lack of knowledge. Jacelyn says lack of knowledge. Miss Myers says not lack of knowledge. Tia, because most are not equipped to have the conversation. That's right. And so, you know what, you bring up something really, really interesting with those responses. And it goes back to why we get all of this formal education and it's never taught in schools. Because I believe that part of the issue is that even for our educators, like, they're not exposed to it either. And, you know, we all have so much shame and ignorance around not knowing it, right? So Tia says, because most are not equipped to have it, but I just saw your, Tia said, because the system was built to create workers, not thinkers. Yes, that's exactly right. But here's the truth, guys, is that in other cultures, they are having these conversations. So why are they having it in other cultures? They live here too. They live in the US, but why are they having it in other cultures and we're not having it in ours? Why do you think that is? In the chat. Ooh, Pauline, afraid to lose what little we have because we don't know how. Now, let me just tell you, there was a whole sermon packed into that, Pauline. They see and experience the benefit of having wealth and investments. Roxanne, that's exactly right. So I asked the question, right? Why don't we have it in our culture? Is because we never had it to pass on. So I got a challenge for all of you. I've got a challenge for all of you. And that is that you get the knowledge yourself. And so again, I want to, Zerlene says other races are legacy minded. That is true. But I'll be honest with you, what I've been most excited about is when members in WealthyU learn about investing and master the art of investing, the first thing that happens is they go right to their children. Right. I know that Anita one of our ambassadors has a monthly meeting with her children. Right. So I want you to apply to WealthyU. Okay, apply. And then once you apply, you're going to get an invitation and say, you're qualified for which program. And then we're going to invite you to experience WealthyU. And then it's not enough for us to invite you to experience, but then we want you to make a commitment to learn this knowledge so that you can pay it forward to your family. And so that, right, so that they can inherit the most valuable asset of all, right? And that's the knowledge of how to build wealth, right? That's the most important thing that we can do. That is how we're going to close this wealth gap. We're going to close it by being models of it ourselves. And that's why WealthyU is built the way that it is. That every week we're showing you examples of people who are building wealth. I want to invite you to look at this week's episode of Get Wealthy. You can go to my Linktree link if you want to know how to get to it, so that you can see my interview with Cassandra Cummings, who recently wrote the book Fearless Finances. And in that, she talks about some fearless figures. The next thing that I want, so here are your takeaways. I want you to apply to WealthyU programs, right? bit.ly WealthyU apply. I want you to make sure that you sign up for our next 5-day Get Wealthy Challenge, where you're going to learn more about the secrets of the 1%. And how to begin to shift from that earner mindset to that owner mindset. Let me, this is what's really, really important. Here's what I want you to know. Some of you have been coming to WealthyU. You've been following me for years, right? And I had a conversation with someone tonight, same thing. I've been following you for years. And what I know to be true is if you lean in and stop just being a follower, but you take this knowledge and you begin to apply it. It's not just the knowledge. That's the most important thing. What do you think the most important thing that you learn in WealthyU is? And I see it over and over again. And I spend a lot of time on it. Anybody want to guess? What is the most important thing? Execution. That's right, Frida, how to ask. That's right, Stephanie, mindset. All right. Everything that you've been taught. And I want you to get this. Everything that you've been taught about how to be financially successful, how to be financially independent, how to be financially free was never designed to have you achieve it. And literally, the reason that we spend so much time on mindset and so much time focusing on you shifting from this income mindset is because this income earner mindset is ingrained in you. And you've been trying to struggle up that ladder and get up that ladder. And many of you are wondering, I did everything they told me to do. It just doesn't seem to be working out for me. What I want you to know is that that ladder is leaning on the wrong wall. And the reason you're not getting up to the heights that you feel like you put in the effort to be, it's because you got the wrong blueprint. In the chats, say it. I got the wrong blueprint. I was given the wrong blueprint. I was given that blueprint. I was given that same blueprint. Who's ready to get the right blueprint? Right, someone switched my blueprint. Who's ready to get the right blueprint? So here's what I want to tell you. The reason that I am so excited about this new book, because in this new book, it shares what happens when you get the right blueprint. You see, I had a dream, and I had, once I went inside and I saw that, wow, they're doing the complete opposite of what they're telling us we should do, right? And then I gained that insight. And then I tried so many ways to deliver it, right? I did books, I did tours, I went inside of organizations thinking I could make an impact. I went on radio, on TV, and I thought if I just give the information, people would get information, as Beyonce would say, right? No, out of the mouths of babes, my son said to me, Mom, people need help, accountability, and support. And that's when we launched WealthyU with the thought of, if we could give a framework and give that accountability and support, that we would get a certain outcome. And man, we're 5 years in, we're just getting started. And I feel like the past 2 years have really accelerated, because now we have a blueprint. And when you apply that blueprint, mindset, strategy, execution, when you apply the process, when you go through the 5 pillars in WealthyU, things change. And you see your investments accelerate and people hitting their first 5 figures, their first 6 figures, their first 7 figures. We got the right blueprint. So who's ready to get the right blueprint so you can achieve the level of financial success that you deserve? So you can take that ladder from off the wrong wall and put it on the right wall. So you can begin to go up it, but not only go up the ladder, but also pay it forward. Who's ready for the right blueprint? If you're ready for the right blueprint, in the chat, put I'm ready for the right blueprint. I want to invite you to join this community. Your life will change. But here's what happens is it's not just the money. There's a ripple effect. You influence the people around you. Now, here, I got to be clear with you. Some people ain't going to want to deal with you, right? Because they comfortable. That's all I want to tell you. Some people going to tell you, "Ooh, don't do that, girl. You know, that's the multi-level," but they're going to have all kind of excuses on why you shouldn't do it. But really, they just want you to stay in the cage with them, right? They want to stay in the cage where it's comfortable. And, you know, for some people, it's comfortable to struggle. I don't know about you, but do you have any friend? "Ooh, yeah, life is so hard." I'll be like, "No, life ain't hard. I reject that. Get thee behind me." Okay, I'm getting silly. But here's the point I want to make is that, and this is very important, because this is the biggest thing in WealthyU, right? Like, it's the circle. It's the people you around. It's the conversations that you're having. The conversation is different, right? We're going next level. We continue to go higher. And all I want you to know is that I want you to go higher with us. So do you want to be in a cage, or do you want to be in a circle where we want you to aspire and to go higher? We're going to give you the right blueprint. And all you have to do is join. That's all you got to do. So that's going to do it for me this evening. Again, apply to our programs. Make sure you join the challenge and bring other folks with you. And I can't wait to see what's going to happen next.
Let's be honest, as successful women, we're crushing it. Maxed out 401k and Roth IRA, check. Aggressive savings and investments, check. Yet, the freedom our success was supposed to buy can leave us stuck on the six-figure hamster wheel, watching retirement slip further down the road. There's another way. Get coaching courses and community at WealthyU.com.